Hey guys, a lot of people have been wondering from TI how EG had such a strong group stage, but yet proceeded to quote unquote dud out, going 0-4 in the playoffs and dropping out in the worst possible placement they could after starting in the upper bracket. So today's video, I'm going to be analyzing their series versus Beast Coast, trying to unravel the mystery that is the drastic drop in performance from group stage to playoffs. So let's go ahead and get started.
Banana slam jam.
So here we are in game one, and I think it's important to give you guys some precursors of what I think of the drafts, as well as how I'm going to gauge their performance during this series. So whenever I see a professional team that is underperforming, especially a star-studded roster like EG, each individual player is very strong, I have to assume there's either a lack of cohesion, there's a problem with their drafts, they're on different pages, they're not using their heroes well together, something like this where the whole is less than the sum of the parts. So let's quickly analyze the drafts in terms of the win condition for EG and Beast Coast. So Beast Coast has a carry Slark, a mid Tiny, and an offlane Mars. So what I see in this draft is, like, other than Arena, a pretty high tempo draft that really wants to play the map to kill you. They have Crystal Maiden Aura to keep everyone topped off in terms of mana, and other than Arena, they have really no other conditions to fight. And the way these heroes flourish on the map is not by flash farming, right? Slark doesn't flash farm, Tiny doesn't flash farm. They are going to kill you over and over again. And that's like the goal of this lineup to flourish. On the other side, EG, they have Terrorblade, who's pretty good at split pushing, jungling, farming. Ember, same thing. Maybe not the jungling part, but the split pushing part. And Broodmother. These heroes don't exactly kill you. They control areas when they're farming, and they kind of like out-trade you while you're farming. It's like if all of these heroes walked up to a creep wave one at a time, Ember's going to bully you out. Terrorblade's going to bully you out. Broodmother's going to bully you out. So this is kind of the way EG traditionally likes to play, especially with Arteezy as like the focus of the team, is that they like to out-farm you. They like to control most of the map and gain a farm advantage over time, right? They don't generally try to pressure in form of like team movements, but they try to out-pressure you in the sense that their net worth gain is just going to go up and up and up. So what I'm basically seeing is that if EG takes over the map, that Beast Coast will continuously have to kill these cores with 3 or 4 heroes. And it's going to take a lot of heroes to kind of shift that momentum for Beast Coast. But if Beast Coast gets ahead, then they can probably have kill duos, where if they have more items, more levels, it'll only take 2 of their heroes to bring down the Broodmother, for instance. So what we need to focus on for EG is whether or not they're securing the farm for their cores, they're stacking camps, they're tanking ganks, and then when they are forcing Beast Coast to separate and bring 3 or 4 heroes to one spot, that Terrorblade's getting a free tower on the other side, or Broodmother's getting a free tower on the other side, or somebody's basically just getting solo zoned out of an area. So that's what I would expect to see from EG's draft. But obviously we know that it doesn't go that way. So let's kind of get into it and see exactly why that doesn't happen. EG has always been a strong laning team. So the first moment I pull up in the game is a minute and a half in, where Terrorblade's meta is about to expire, and Fly has, as a support Sven, has used most of his mana. And so what's going to happen here is that there's going to be a power spike for Beast Coast because the Metamorphosis is going to be out and Sven has dropped really low. So whenever the opponent's more powerful than you have 2 options, and that's to go pull the camp to avoid fighting them, or to basically do exactly what we're going to see Fly do, where he tanks a death to secure farm for Arteezy. And this is a kind of move that I actually like a lot, because if Sven goes and pulls, Arteezy's definitely vulnerable here. Like, Fly can't really leave him alone because they have a pretty solid kill duo between Mars and Snapfire. So you're going to see here that Fly doesn't use his Mango, purposely walks in, actually uses Mango to stun, but purposely walks in, forces a bunch of spells on him, which is actually going to allow Arteezy to freely hit creeps in the meantime. And then it's going to allow Sven to come back to lane, full health, full mana. So this was actually a cool move, something that I usually see from EG, where they get to choose these little moments in the lane, and I usually like the decision that they go for. So I really want to highlight that from what I was watching, the first 5 minutes of EG's gameplay is never really the issue. Abed was always doing fine mid. You can see he's perfectly even with the Tiny, and the 2 side lanes are going pretty well for EG thus far. So we can kind of check that off the list. I didn't see that as a problem throughout the entire event for them. I almost feel like they won a lot of their group stage games off of the first 5 minutes and then being able to outfarm the opponent. So we're going to kind of have some deja vu from the first example now at 4:45. And what's going to happen is Arteezy's Metamorphosis is going to expire, and we're basically, like I said, you're going to see some deja vu. Fly elects to tank the spells from Beast Coast. And the issue with this one is that there was literally no retaliation from Arteezy, and the lane is still pushing into him. He almost like tried to help Fly. So the whole point of what Fly was doing, which was to create space for him to farm, if it's going to be good, would be that Arteezy can like relieve some of this pressure on the tower. There's like a lot of creeps coming in, the 5-minute catapult, and that's going to mean that like he gained something from Sven dying. But no damage was done, no creeps were cleared, so then Sven's death is basically going to be for naught because now the lane's pushed in and Arteezy's going to proceed to get pressured despite the fact that Fly ate the spells for him. And Whisper here is able to use his resources now, health and mana, because he basically used nothing to kill Fly that second time. He didn't pay any health, and he has a CM plus a stick, so he's got plenty of mana to work with. So Fly is going to TP back in, and this is actually going to set up a very powerful play for Chris Luck, who's prioritizing the side lanes over his own game. And I think this is something that will punish EG because they're trying to basically get efficiency out of all 3 lanes. You can see Abed's allowed to freely farm mid, and Chris Luck's going to rotate top, and then he's going to see Fly over here and get another free kill on Fly because of the fact that he dropped low immediately after TPing in. So this doesn't seem like necessarily a huge deal, right? Because top lane tower's not dying, like the catapult's not hitting it yet. Arteezy's still doing fine in regards to levels. But what now is going to happen is this snowball effect of Fly effectively being off the map. So Beast Coast sees that Fly is dead, and they can now leave the Mars to get solo XP because Terrorblade with no meta and then the stunning support being dead, there's simply no plays for EG to make in this top lane. So the power to feel that you can leave your offlaner by himself with no concerns is incredibly important in any Dota game, right? And so I feel like Fly's been a bit too sacrificial up here because even though Arteezy is farming, his presence as the support still needs to be here, right? They need to make it so Whisper is not farming this lane while being alone. You can't give them both of these things, right? So what that's going to do is Snapfire, who used all of his resources to pressure top and get those extra kills, is now going to TP bottom in order to gank the Brood. And we talked about how the whole idea of these 2 drafts is that Beast Coast kills these EG heroes from pressuring them, right? The EG heroes rely on that pressure purely by pushing waves and farming, and Beast Coast is only going to shut that down with these kills. So this is a really hard move for Nightfall to read because, like, where is Snapfire? He could be mid, he could be stacking, he could be top. Because he is not needed to show himself to help the Mars, because they have not aggressed on the Mars, this is a situation where if Fly was top right now, they could both go on Mars, seeing that he's low HP, he has stick charges, but relatively low mana. They could basically say, oh, we're going on Mars, no reaction from the Snapfire, he's missing, right? But right now, they have no way of knowing where Snapfire is because Fly has elected to go into the jungle to stack and pick up some bounty runes, and Nightfall is going to pay the price for this. So already, like, the kill aspect of the game is in favor of Beast Coast, exactly how the drafts are kind of written up. It's important to note that the way Broodmother and Hoodwink beat Slark is by harassing him out of lane. They can't really kill him full to 0, but they can poke him down. And the way that ends up swinging one way or the other is basically who hits 6 first between Broodmother and Slark, right? Because Slark, if the only way you're going to beat him is harassing him out, then once he gets 6, that's negated, right? So this kill not only secured a kill on Nightfall, but it also secured K1 hitting 6 before Brood, which is going to allow him to occupy the lane and relieve the pressure against the Brood for a much longer time. So following the kill bottom, Beast Coast is going to immediately rotate both of their supports mid to pressure Abed a little bit. And even though they're not going to kill him, they're making him bottle up, and they're making it so he doesn't have enough resources to create any pressure of his own. And in the meantime, EG is making a nice play to kill Mars, right? And so immediately after you get a kill like this on the Mars, it's really important to ask yourself what you're going to do with this kill, right? And so what I liked about what Beast Coast was doing, since they have a very active lineup, is that they rotated immediately to another lane. And I feel like EG should know this, right? EG should be aware that Beast Coast wants to play this high tempo, rotate to their cores one at a time, and use the 2 supports plus 1 core to alleviate this individual pressure in each lane. Because like now that they alleviated pressure bottom, K1's chilling, and now they're helping Chris Luck, and then now they have whatever option they want to next. So Beast Coast is using their supports right now to secure the 8-minute rune, shutting down Abed and potentially giving Chris Luck the rune, but it ends up going the way of shutting him down, right? But what I don't like about what EG did here is they got a kill on Mars who didn't use anything. Like you can see, Mars still has his arena, and they have a really heavy rotating mid in the Tiny. So this is a situation where in 18 seconds, EG is done here. They should not try to pressure this tower. There's really nothing to gain here. You have to see, like, are they going to kill this tower full to 0 in 18 seconds? What is Mars going to do when he respawns? Well, Mars wants to just TP back into his lane. That's exactly what he wants to do. So by forcing a tower that is not going to go down and also is making the Mars just do what he already wants to do, kind of makes no sense. Like, it actually doesn't create any pressure on the map. If they had rotated instantly to the mid lane to potentially help Abed, who is winning his lane because Chris Luck's been a bit sacrificial this game, they could suddenly have this like 3-on-3 mid where likely Mars is going to want to participate in that because he has arena. He TP's mid, Arteezy can then pressure this tower by himself, more so than he would with him 1v1ing Mars. So that's what I really don't like about this EG rotation, is I just don't see what they're possibly thinking by camping the 2 supports here. This to me is such a forced play that is just a waste of time. Like right now, Abed is cutting mid aggressively and Chris Luck is alone now. So like Beast Coast, who's been rotating back and forth, is now creating like a relevant amount of pressure on Nightfall, who's forced to cower in the trees, right? They're being very quick, going back and forth, swinging back and forth. And this like 20 to 30 seconds of just stationary camping on the side of the lane is just not going to cut it. Like, there's no actual pressure being created here. Whisper's totally chill farming underneath this tower. Metamorphosis was expiring anyways. So it's like, when I'm Terrorblade or Hero of the like Faceless Void and such, long cooldown heroes that are helpable, gankable for, it's like, I love when you gank for me. I'm going to use my ultimate or my meta, we're going to get a kill, and then I just want you to f*** off. Like, that's what I want you to do if I'm a carry player, because now that I don't have my ultimate anymore, I definitely don't want to fight, and I also don't want attention drawn to my lane. I want you to draw attention elsewhere. So this move by EG is now on the mid lane, but it's just so slow, right? This took like an extra 20 or 30 seconds than it should have. Beast Coast in the meanwhile is already doing damage to bottom tower. They've had all the time in the world to create pressure and now TP into mid lane. Like, imagine if this rotation was like 20 to 30 seconds faster, but it's not going to actually net anything other than a little bit of harass onto Chris Luck. So next up, we have mirrored pressure on both sides. This is pretty standard at this stage in the game. Whisper and Chris Luck are going to try to pressure Arteezy in the top lane, and Nightfall and Crit are going to try to pressure K1 in the bottom lane. So there's going to be an arena thrown out, but Arteezy, they don't know if he has Sunder or not, so they're not going to overcommit. K1 is forced to use ultimate. So what EG sees here is that K1 has no ultimate, low mana, and then Mars also used his ultimate, top. So they think this is like the green light for Sven to be bottom and to create a lot of pressure here, which absolutely makes sense, right? There's nothing about this that seems scary. The issue is that when you make plays like this, if you're way stronger than the opponent, then the best option is to force them to react and then kill them, right? That's the goal. You want to like push your advantage in every single way. But if you're against a lineup like Beast Coast that's trying to kill you and they need resources to do it, I just don't see a reason why EG's lineup would ever want to fight. Like the way Abed's been playing, where he's like efficiently playing mid, Arteezy's efficiently playing top, all we want to do on EG's lineup is force Beast Coast to go one place, push the other two lanes, forcing them to run there, and then pressuring the lane that they just left. Basically dragging Beast Coast's kill heroes around the map. I really want to emphasize that if nobody dies in this game, it's almost certainly to the advantage of EG. So what's going to happen is they're going to commit to K1. They know they got a ton of reactions, and they could have just left. And that's like Arteezy's farming, mid lane's open. They have complete free reign of the map, and this is almost like another forced rotation from Abed, where, yeah, sure, it's great and all that he can come bottom and maybe look for something, but once you see the Mars, you know, once you see this Snapfire, you're done here. Just, dude, just rim it out and just let it go, right? Just be done here. But instead, they're not content with what they've forced. They're going to get combo down on Abed before he can even do anything. And these are the type of plays where Abed just looks like he's pressured, right? Like, is a Grandmaster tier Ember really going to die like that? Like, that's my best explanation. Like, is a 12k Grandmaster tier Ember supposed to die like this? And it just seems like Nightfall's on a different page, right? He's back. He's like, I'm done here. I'm a broodmother. I'm just trying to hit creeps and be annoying, and the rest of EG is committing in. So, like I said, there's two options in these plays. It's to force reactions and back off, or to force reactions and go for more. One guy on EG was force reaction and back off, and the other three were go for more. And it's the biggest part about that is it's not even the guy that was in the play originally. Like, Abed looks like he feels the need to force something here. If they had just forced all of these heroes on Beast Coast to go bottom, Abed just goes back mid, farms this creep wave for free, Arteezy's farming this creep wave for free. Yeah, even if they lose two supports, EG would be very happy with this trade. But that's just not what happened. So I really want to emphasize that Dota is so much about what heroes want you to play with them, why, and all that kind of stuff. How many heroes do they want around them? How strong are they, etc. So in this situation, we're now at the respawn of this bottom engagement, and I see that Arteezy has Dragonlance plus meta. This to me is like, let's include our carry in the play. Like, I as a Terrorblade am like super happy to casually rotate mid or to have people gank for me in a way that I can just use my meta and then go back to what I was doing. Exactly what they did earlier. And then on the other hand, you have a Broodmother offlane who, against Mars, like, he just God's rebukes your spiders, right? And even though Mars Arena is still on cooldown for a bit, Beast Coast's heroes all TP'd bottom lane. Like, most of their resources are bottom. So if you try to take like a 3 or 4 man engagement on the side of EG in the bottom lane, that's where Beast Coast is already set up. They likely have a ward because they've been set up here. You see the ward here. That's very likely since they took a fight just now. And on top of that, their heroes can't physically get top. Their TPs are still on cooldown. So we see a Slark that we can just bully. Like, if Terrorblade pops meta, Slark is going to be forced to go jungle or to go back to mid lane. Like, Slark will not be able to clear this creep wave because he is a hero that has to physically be on top of the creep wave, which he's just not going to be able to tank a Terrorblade with Dragonlance and level 3 Metamorphosis. So this is an opportunity where a lot of games you do generally want to create pressure in this bottom lane, but you've already forced the pressure here, and you see a guy that you know for sure is alone top. And what I see here is a level 7 Slark that you've put a lot of pressure onto. You know, his net worth is still decent, but by no means is he having a free game. And a super strong Terrorblade in a situation where EG, once again, controls certain parts of the map, bully Beast Coast heroes away from farming. You don't have to even kill them. Just stop them from farming the area that you are farming. And this is a situation where even like one hero would be enough because of the fact that Beast Coast has rotated bottom to just make Slark off. Like, just make him leave. But instead, Slark's actually pushing this lane into Arteezy, and Arteezy's being forced to jungle. So rather than top momentum easily going towards EG, it's now instead going towards Beast Coast, and then EG comes back bottom with a move, and instead, because Beast Coast is already set up, they have a lot of chain stun available. They do a really good job of using these stuns without stacking them, and Abed's gonna die again. So we have effectively lost momentum in 2 lanes with this one move. Theoretically, this bottom lane should not even matter. Like, we should just let Brood do her thing. She can rotate back to the triangle if she needs to. We could be putting pressure on mid, forcing Beast Coast to walk back there, which is then going to open up bottom lane for Brood, most likely making Mars rotate. And we could just simply make it so Slark can't do this. This is so important for Slark because he's finishing a crucial item. So you're allowing pressure now on 2 out of the 3 lanes. You're not even creating meaningful pressure on the mid lane because it's just a support Sven. And you're also allowing the snowballing kill lineup to hit their timings because Tiny's getting close to a blink. Slark's finishing his Diffusal in 300 gold. And this move alone has given so much momentum to Beast Coast on the map as well as pace of the game. So we can now see that Arteezy is kind of feeling what we were talking about. He's like, get me in there, coach. Put me in. I've got meta. I can't do anything to this Slark alone. He knows that. He's going to just walk towards mid, looking to be a part of the fight. And he's going to look to be using his meta. No runes are spawning. There's actually no objective here, right? So Beast Coast, they've got 3 heroes that rotated from bottom. They can afford to do that because Ember died. And now EG is taking like this half-ass move. This is like a half-ass move because they're doing it without their Ember. And meanwhile, top tower is like dying. So there's bad pressure in the other 2 lanes. They're missing their mid laner, and now they're using their like power spike, albeit not like a massive power spike, but it is one on their Terrorblade for whatever this is. Like, the thing is, even if this fight goes well, it could just be better. Like, I'm gonna watch it. I actually don't know what occurs, but yeah, now they just TP in and die as 3 heroes? What? So they force something bottom by diving and overextending. Clearly Nightfall backing up and Abed going in. Completely different pages. They then proceed to have a decision to go bottom or to go top. And in hindsight, like, whenever I watch Tier 1 Dota, what makes it so beautiful as like an analyst is that the only difference from my experience of Tier 1 players and like Tier 2, Tier 3 players is how quickly they come to the right decisions. Usually Tier 2, Tier 3 players can assess, like, watching a game, that is the right decision. It's like, I can watch this replay back with all the time in the world to think about it, and it seems very obvious to help the Terrorblade rather than go bottom with the Brood. And that's what Tier 1 teams are going to do. They are going to do the right thing in real time. They don't need an extra minute or 5 to come up with these right plays. So I see that EG, like the vision I have of this game does not align at all with what they're doing on the map. I'm telling you that Slark, as long as he's allowed to freely push waves by himself, is living the frickin' dream. And EG's entire lineup is just about Mars showing on a creep wave, hit him with 2 heroes. Slark's showing on a creep wave, make him go jungle. Like, Beast Coast has to kill you to stop this from occurring. So now EG's basically lost every ounce of map momentum that they could possibly accrue, because in the meantime, while Beast Coast is dedicating heroes to a certain area, there's no meaningful pressure coming out from Brood. He hasn't even taken the tower yet, because when this move started mid, he was back here, and this tower is already taking damage. So it feels like Beast Coast is honestly just faster. So after Beast Coast gets this kill, they are just going to immediately address the bottom pressure. That's not even there yet. Like, they can just walk there casually, no smoke or anything. Like, Whisper feels pretty good about just defending this tower. And Nightfall, who is forcing a reaction by pushing the tower, doesn't see anybody on the map, which means they're either going top or they're ganking him bottom. That's what pressure's all about. He could be using his spiders on the tower, maybe like half of them, so the Mars doesn't just kill them. But the whole idea of pushing this lane in and the way EG wants to play is force Beast Coast to show heroes, and then you have the opportunity to pressure elsewhere. And instead, Nightfall like backs off and runs towards the direction that Beast Coast had just shown. Like, they had just shown 4 heroes right here. So, like, if you're going to retreat as Nightfall, you'd want to take, like, the long path. Because Beast Coast, if they were going bottom, would be walking straight from here, right? This is the path that they would take, which they're missing. They last showed mid. And a lot of map awareness in Dota is, where did they last show? How long ago was it? And based on how long ago it was, where could they theoretically be? So he forces pressure and then just walks straight in the direction that Beast Coast would be coming from if they were showing up. So he's literally saying, please don't be ganking me, please don't be ganking me, please don't be ganking me, please. And then just dies. Kind of just feeding left and right. Arteezy now TP's back top. This, like, see what Hector had to do even with Diffusal? He had to pop ultimate and run away. Like, imagine if Arteezy had been given 1 or 2 heroes earlier on in the game. Now they're like, they don't have meta, and they're trying to pressure this Slark out of top lane when this could have been, like, Arteezy's meta doing this. This is like, what? He's just farming under tower now. They're not creating any semblance of strength here. They're now rotating back to the runes mid, but, like, Beast Coast is already set up. Notice how the moves from EG aren't actually forcing Beast Coast to react other than like 4-man engagements from EG. So like Hector gets a free tower top. EG's now pushing mid, and this is really good. If they force a reaction from Mars and disengage, that would be perfect. But he runs away on Abed with 3 remnants available, and his remnant here is literally equidistant from Tiny. It's equidistant. This is a triangle. This is an equilateral triangle. So if Tiny was going to be able to get you here, he's going to be able to get you over here. Oh my gosh. I mean, this is just, you can tell, like, you know these players are incredibly mechanically skilled on EG's side. So seeing them make Pepega plays like this, you just know something's going on in the team comms. You can tell they're rattled. Like, Slark's taken over this entire jungle, Terrorblade's on the back foot, and the whole idea of this EG lineup, if I haven't said it more than 6 times already, is to have those lane momentum, the map momentum in regards to farm. We out-farm you on individual places on the map. All the towers are alive and healthy for Beast Coast. I mean, mid tower's like kind of low, but they've got a really good lineup for defending it. Now they have Blink Tiny and Blink Mars. Honestly, from what I've seen in this game, like, I think it's pretty much over. EG's lineup has no business being behind at this stage in the game, and it should just kind of bleed into more and more deaths. Like, they're kind of just going to feed off cooldown, I would imagine, because the only way EG's lineup can flourish is by farming, and Beast Coast lineup is a low cooldown kill you lineup. So Beast Coast can just afford to leave Slark alone because he's pretty much ungankable. They have no instant stuns that he should not be able to Dark Pact. And so now there's like this pressure on EG to make something happen. So they're going to go mid, 5-man. Honestly, this is what they have to do. Absolutely. The farm play is not going to work anymore, which means you got to like play for 1 or 2 big fights so that you can then resume the way you were playing the game. But at this point, being down by 3k, Arteezy's going to use Sunder. This honestly looks pretty good, all things considered. Arena somehow clips Arteezy. The spear misses. I would say this is about as good as it could be for EG, imagining if they had like a more even game at this point. Arteezy's going to go down after using meta. Mid-tier 1's perfectly alive and well. Abed actually gets the kill on Chris Luck. Very good. This is like plan B for EG. This is like, okay, the way we were supposed to win this game is no longer occurring. So time to take this Broodmother pipe and group up around it was pretty much the idea here. So when you are struggling in games where your overall plan A is not working, hit a timing, in this case the Broodmother pipe, and just 5-man looking to make something happen. So definitely a good move from EG there, no question. I don't know how to explain this, but you have to reset the map. It's like, okay, we force all of Beast Coast to fight us as 5. Both lineups have cooldowns. Like, let's go get some lanes out because Beast Coast kind of has to reset the map. All 5 of their heroes were brought to one place. Slark's not controlling top anymore. See this? Like, even Nightfall's drawing a line to top. Like, you can see on the map, Nightfall's drawing a line. So after they take this fight mid, small win for them. They went from down 3k to down 2k. Didn't get the tower, but overall I'd say is a beneficial trade, all things considered, based on how far behind they were in kills. Have one person run top, probably Abed. Have Arteezy TP back in bottom and gently create some pressure. Broodmother can occupy this area with this ward. You know, make it so that if Beast Coast leaves mid, he can go back and take it. Like, Broodmother here, Arteezy here, or Terrorblade here, Ember here. And you just have to do this for, like, 1 or 2 creep waves. Just group up, disperse, group back up again. And I'm not even going to lie to you guys. This looks incredibly low skill for EG to just be like, okay, time to 5-man bottom now. Let's just run here. Let's ignore the farm on the map. Let's ignore, like, our original plan. Let's just walk bottom. They, like, had stragglers. They're against Slark, who has 1800 night vision. And now their 5-man move didn't even occur. right? They didn't even like, there wasn't an actual move there. They just walked bottom, and then one person died, and they're like, oh. Time to go do, the original farm plan. So now Abed's going to TP top. Broodmother's here instead of, like, up here, which is, like, a pretty big deal on the map. Like, there's no pressure on mid lane at this point. Like, even though he's still pushing it, nobody on Beast Coast feels the need to defend it. And so now Whisper's going to run top, pinging Abed, saying, get him out of here. He TP'd. It's a big deal that Abed TP'd here as opposed to walking, because if he walked here, then EG could push out this lane like Abed did and create pressure on the bottom map, half of the map now. They could see like, oh, Mars went top, let's go push bottom now. But because he TP'd here, he's actually stuck here, right? He's actually stuck on this side of the map. So EG's like now glued to farming for another 30 seconds to a minute without their mid. Like, Ember's literally off the map until his TP comes back up. So just stuff like this, Hoodwink getting harassed, Slark freely farming his Ags. Like, I think they could have gone with meta, like, right now, right? This was the timing, meta, right now. But instead, like, the map is still a bit janky. Broodmother's now cowering behind this bottom tower. Abed's getting pressured. They are going to disengage from the Mars Arena and the Snapfire ulti. That's pretty good. Sven still dies, whatever. Arteezy's a bit late to this fight. So I'm going to wrap up this specific replay here and move on to the next one because of what I want to say about EG's draft. EG's draft is all about Beast Coast using spells and then EG freely killing a tower. That is all this game is. It's like Beast Coast does something like this, and the punishment is that Beast Coast bottom tower dies, and their map shrinks. Like, the area that they have to farm shrinks. EG's lineup is terrible at team fighting. They have absolutely no team fight. Like, Hoodwink's a single target pickoff kind of hero. Sven is like a war cry and a stun. It's like, if you compare that team fight to Crystal Maiden ulti, Mars ulti, even like Tiny is like very nice for bursting one target, but like single-handedly jumping the backline supports, Snapfire ultimate. Like, the team fight of Beast Coast is so superior. So if EG was playing according to their draft, Beast Coast would waste spells on a Sven, Broodmother would be killing this tower, Terrorblade Illusion would be pushing top, somebody on Beast Coast goes top to deal with this push, and then EG probably takes mid, and potentially bottom at the same time. But instead, EG's like completely forgot what their lineup's all about, and they're just like, okay, let's fight them. Run at them, guys. They're weak. Run at them. There's a lot of ways to punish weakness in Dota, and it's all about when the opponent's weak, what is your lineup's strength? And EG's strength is to conveniently kill towers and push lanes. And they punish Beast Coast's missed teamfight spells by fighting them, by forcing a fight in the mid lane. Now we have some like low skill jank ass camping mid. Like, why is nobody pushing bottom? Why are they not killing this tower? Like, think about that. Why is it that every time Beast Coast brings 3 or 4 heroes elsewhere, that none of these towers are taking damage? And that's just the way EG was going to win this game. And the fact that they've kind of butchered it up until this point, Beast Coast kind of just has to throw. Like, that's the only way EG is going to win this game. And Beast Coast heroes are very survivable, low cooldown, very difficult for them to overextend with the nature of Slark and his shard and Ags pounces. So, EG, the biggest comment I have about this game was your draft had a clear plan, and somewhere around like 5 minutes, they just forgot what that was. So we've loaded up game 2, and we're looking at a very similar draft for EG. Now, Beast Coast has quite a different draft. Leshrak's much more of a farming mid, Naga's much more of a farming safe laner, and they have like one pick-off scouting hero, one team fighting hero. Like, Beast Coast is much more about farming this game than they were in game 1. But EG's got like the same recipe as before. Summons based offlaner who's going to try to pressure his lane. Mid Ember Spirit, same hero. And then Lifestealer who likes to sit in his own lane. So the difference between Lifestealer and TB is that Lifestealer tends to want as little attention in his lane as possible at all times. And the only time he wants you there is if he can't sit in his lane and hit creeps. He wants to just sit on top of the creep wave. Nobody's allowed to walk up. And if they think they're allowed to walk up, then Lifestealer's like, no. That's not allowed. I need one hero to show up and I need to kill them. That's the way Lifestealer wants to play. Because basically, as an offlaner, I should feel terrified to go anywhere in this area, basically, if I'm against a Lifestealer and he's winning. I should not be allowed to farm anywhere in this area because Lifestealer can so easily just buy phase boots, run at me with the slow from Ghoul Frenzy, and unless I TP out, I'm just dead, right? I'm just gonna die if he gets one hit off on me. And so you see he's already got the phase boots queued up, and that's like the only thing that strength offlaners who don't have any significant amount of physical damage can really do against Lifestealer. They basically just say, I don't want to interact with you anymore. I'm just gonna cut waves or jungle or make a move on the map. So as long as Lifestealer has nobody in his lane, this guy's being chilling. Ember, on the other hand, he's against Leshrac. I've actually played this matchup a lot from the Leshrac's perspective, and I will say that my experience of Lesh versus Ember is unless I get like a regen rune or an arcane rune at minute 6, I end up going back to base because I have to use Lightning Storm and Stun to secure a lot of CS, and he ends up just spamming Slide on me because I've got like mediocre armor on Leshrac, and the bottle is usually not enough to sustain me through the Sleight of Fist spam. So because he's a hard hero to hit with my spells, and because he can harass me, I usually try to use all my spells in lane, and I end up going back to base around 6 or 7 minutes. The way I look at it is, the only setup for Mirana Arrow is Beastmaster Roar, Ember Chains, and CM. So that means that if I'm crit, then I'm going to make moves on the map based on if I have CM with me. That's one thing, so I could maybe rotate to CM's lane if Ember's gonna slight chain somebody and set up my arrow, or if Beastmaster hits 6 with Helm Dom. So I see like pretty clear timings and opportunities for EG. I see that like once Ember gets a point in chains, Lifestealer needs to bully people out of his lane, and you're gonna also have a timing with Beastmaster 6. So that's what I'm envisioning from this game. And now it's time to see exactly like what they can do about it. Very similar game plan to game 1. Control areas that you're farming, make Beast Coast split up, and then just murder them because you have really good single target infest bombs with the Lifestealer. So I'd like to comment on the early laning stage for EG. So Lifestealer against a strength offlaner and a Nyx, so 2 melees, should have pretty much free farm. Like, there's just nothing they can do to stop this guy. Like, sure, maybe Whisper's going to get creeps too, but Arteezy's going to be like ultra chillin', perfect lane for Lifestealer. Ember Lesh, we talked about it, pretty even trade, but a lot of harass going both ways. And then bottom lane. So the issue with Naga as a hero when I'm playing her is that I want to be able to outpush the enemy by summoning illusions and having them riptide the creeps. So a lot of Dota is so much about understanding who pushes the wave in the laning stage and then abusing pull camps based on this. So if you're the Dire off lane and you outpush them, it's really important that you make use of this big camp and force the Radiant heroes into you, right? Force them to commit into you. Which will make them out of position. And if you're the Radiant squad, it's the vice versa, right? You push out the lane and you use the small camp. If you can push out the lane really far as the safe laners, you can look to abuse the hard camp as well. So if I'm EG, I'm thinking like either we're going to keep the lane back here and outtrade, or we're going to push the lane in and abuse this camp. I feel like anything in between is just inefficient. That's really the 2 efficient game plans for most offlane duos. So if you look, a lot of Beastmasters will take axes against illusion heroes, very important to note. But then level 2, they either will not level anything, or they'll take boar. And the reason why is because by leveling Inner Beast, you are going to push the creep wave, right? So the lane is going to push back into Beast Coast, even if neither team were to do anything. So I see that CM is spamming nuke, Nightfall has his Inner Beast, and so what I see here is there's very little kill threat from EG, right? You're spamming them. All you're doing is spamming them. So first and foremost, this makes no sense to me. Like, yes, you have to consider the Chen creep and frostbiting it, but level 1 Chen creeps are really not that scary. So either you take this and frostbite a creep, or you just level your aura and spam out the lane. So the fact that they're using this to kill the creep, then Fly should have more mangoes. Like, he should have way more. He's flying himself out more, but like, why does he have this regen? Like, just have more mana regen to make use of these spells. But he's almost level 3. So the fact that, like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, why does he have not enough mana regen? They're pushing in the lane. They're clearly looking to spam, right? They're going to spam Wild Axes. They're spamming both spells from Crystal Maiden. And the lane is going to consistently be pushed into Beast Coast. So let's make use of that, right? Let's pull this hard camp, draw the Naga out of position. The Naga cannot outpush these Beastmaster Axes. And my question is, what is Fly doing? Just pull the creep wave. Deny like 2 or 3 creeps. Your option is to either dive Beast Coast or to pull. And so in this case, Hector's just like pretty much freely farming under tower. No dive occurred. No pull happened. And now what happens is the lane wasn't still pushed in. The lane was in their tower, but Hector was like in a perfectly safe spot with like 2 creeps under tower. Previously, when we had the option of pull or not, there were a ton of creeps from EG. There's 5 creeps, 2 range creeps that are pushing in to Beast Coast. So Chen kind of has to be here to like babysit the Naga. And if he does walk out, he's going to be tanking a bunch of creeps and fighting through 2 heroes. So this is the time where pulling would be by far the most effective. See how he would have been tanking creeps if he ran over to the pull camp? But now, like, that's not the case. Naga's got like 1 or 2 creeps under tower. Chen is able to walk over. He got level 3. So now he's able to enchant the smaller Hellbear Smasher. They try to get the pull off, don't even get the stack, and they've almost missed their timing to abuse the pull camp because Chen can now convert most of the creeps other than the very big ones. So Fly is making sure he shuts down these creeps, but what I'm basically seeing here is rather than pressuring the Naga in some meaningful way, Chen is chilling and farming the small camp, he's jungling around, and Naga's getting perfectly fine levels in the safe lane by herself. Naga is much more of an XP-based carry than anything else. Yes, of course, she needs items, but when she gets like level 7 in treads, this hero flash farms like a mother. So absolutely perfect setup for Beast Coast to have Chen be allowed to jungle like this and have Naga just chilling by herself, even if she's going to take some harass. So Whisper is going to do the right thing here and start to cut top wave. And they don't really have a best way to punish this because Mirana plus Nakes is just no reliable lockdown. It's not something like a Bane that can set up for the Lifestealer to connect. So Crit is left with 2 choices, and that's to chase Whisper down and force him to bring this wave into tower, which is then going to restore the wave to be back up here. Or he can go mid to help with the 6-minute rune. Both seem reasonable, and since Gojira has left top lane, it kind of makes sense to kind of mirror this and make sure that Abed does not get bullied out of mid. So Abed, unfortunately, gets his TP canceled, which makes this super crucial that he gets this rune. He's going to get the rune. Still relatively low on mana, but he does have CM aura. And so now, here's what I see here. My Ember got his TP canceled. He's got a haste rune, great, but I would pretty much see this as a bottle refiller because he didn't go back to base, get full health, full mana, and then have a haste rune. He's sitting on 100 mana. So that means that we helped our Ember, we secured his rune, and now we're done here, right? We've talked about the nature of the Ember-Lesh matchup. We saw what happened in the mid lane. Something unfortunate, like a lot of the best Dota players in the world, what makes them so good is they're just dynamic. If Ember was full HP, full mana, you kill with him. If he's not, you just leave him be. And so now Crit should definitely just walk back top to shut down this Brewmaster before he gets 6. What about a rotation from Fly? What about Beastmaster being level 4 with the lane near his tower? So we're seeing these opportunities to leave this guy alone. He's never going to die, but he's also not killing anybody. This guy's got the lane next to his tower. He's never going to die, but he's also not hit his power spike yet. This is the perfect time to shut down this guy right before his power spike, because we talked about Lifestealer doesn't want this. Lifestealer, people are going to avoid you all the time. I can tell you if you play Lifestealer at the highest level, this is what happens like 90% of games. So this is predictable, right? This is something that they've definitely scrimmed with Lifestealer. They've talked about this, and this should be shut down. While it's even more apparent because there's absolutely no reason to be playing around these 2 cores. Mirana Ember have no synergy until he has Chains, which is going to come out at level 8, and Beastmaster is very weak to play around until he's level 6 plus Helm Dom. And he also doesn't need babysitting because he's got Illusion Clear, he's not going to have his tower pressured. He actually wants this XP by himself on Beastmaster. I would much rather just be getting this solo. You're not applying any meaningful pressure to Naga, and in the meantime, Brewmaster is just freely cutting creeps. Like, what is Crit actually doing? I saw this in EE's analysis, and I completely agreed. Like, why are we letting this level 5 Brew freely get a level 6? Why are we playing around a Beastmaster who's level 5 with no Helm Dom? Why are we walking back towards mid? There's no pressure here. You're actually soaking XP from your Ember, who's level 8, is his timing to help you. So, like, not only is he not playing around the guy whose timing isn't there yet, but he's also preventing that timing from coming out. Meanwhile, Brew, the super greedy offlaner, is just chilling 1v1 versus Lifestealer, and this is not what we want as Lifestealer. He literally went Phase Boots Orb of Venom. It's like, if this was the way you're going to play the game, just go no boots Maelstrom. Like, these items say, I'm going to chase this offlaner out of my lane. He needs to fuck off. But he can't do it alone as Lifestealer because he's going to miss creeps. He has no way to flash farm the creep wave. So, like, if this was how they were going to play, then Arteezy should definitely just go no boots Maelstrom because he's not getting pressured. And he's also not pressuring. So just go the item that accelerates your farm. So this just shows a clear disconnect in the way that EG, like one guy wants something. This is what the cores want, and the supports are not doing it. So whether it's the core not communicating it, whether it's scrims, like whether it's like lack of confidence, I have really no clue. But it just doesn't make sense what they're doing on the map. Nightfall's now like rotating towards mid tower with level 5.5. I imagine he would have level 6 if Fly had not been soaking XP near the tower, giving him a bit of extra solo XP. And I just see that all their timings are delayed. And then meanwhile, Beast Coast is hitting all of theirs. I would say Beast Coast has a much greedier draft. Naga Lesh, incredibly greedy course. And Brewmaster is generally a hero that is kind of a liability until he gets level 6. And like 1 or 2 items, right? He's kind of a liability. Like he's a split after that, but up until that point, like he's never pressuring the snakes. And Beast Coast is the ones this game. Like we talked about last game, if no kills happened, that EG would be happy. I feel like this game, if no kills are happening, Beast Coast is the ones that are happy because of the fact that they have so many greedy heroes. Chen wants to jungle. Nyx is a greedy early game support because he needs level 6 and mana boots. And then, like you see, he's even saving up. And then bottom lane, they have Roar. So they finally have Roar from the Beast. He's got his timing, and there's nobody on EG in sight. We have 2 supports playing around a Searing Chainless Ember. There's no timing here. I see that this timing's about to come out, which was obviously delayed again by Crit's presence in the mid lane. And then this timing is there, and yet the 2 supports are mid. So we missed an opportunity to pressure Brew. We have an opportunity to pressure with Beastmaster. And then once Ember gets his solo XP with level 8, he's able to possibly connect to this move. Great. So it's the same idea as with Slark last game. Like, you can just shove this Naga out of this area. Like, you don't even have to kill her. But if you bring 3 heroes, at the very least, Naga is going to be forced to retreat. Perhaps a Brewmaster rotation, which is then going to make him pop his split. And so instead, Nightfall's like cutting a creep wave. He's the one getting initiated onto, forced to defensively roar, so no pressure created. Instead, they're actually going to likely kill him here. Nice body block from Hector. And now EG's like, okay, we got to help him. Nope, I guess we're done here. Crit's just getting caught by 3 heroes. This is just so lackadaisical. It's like, okay, let's sit around our level 7 Ember. Oh, our Beastmaster's in trouble. Let's like walk straight towards him. It's so predictable from Beast Coast's perspective because they're like, oh, we're going to flank the reinforcements, right? They probably expected more heroes to be behind this Beastmaster. Like, I'm pretty sure that they assumed it would not be that easy. That they assumed that this Beastmaster had backup, but they're like, oh, I guess he's just dead. So meanwhile, Lifestealer's pushing top. He's going Maelstrom because he's against Naga Siren as opposed to the Armlet build. Very limited physical damage coming out from Beast Coast, so the Armlet's not as necessary. We've now finally got level 8 on Ember. He's going a Maelstrom of his own. Beastmaster's now kind of like lost momentum on the bottom half. Naga can pretty much occupy this area for all of eternity. He's bought like no regen. Like he's buying like no laning items other than the stick. He's like going straight Manta. So now Beast Coast once again has this setup where last game it was Slark, this game it's Naga. They can just leave them alone to hit their timings. Last game was the Diffusal for Slark, this game is the Manta for Naga. Completely pushing this lane freely. Beastmaster and Brood operate purely based on the pressure that this tower feels, right? The pressure that they exhibit on the safe lane tower. And both games, they've... Like Broodmother, I would say, is generally better by drawing attention away from the Broodmother. And Beastmaster, it's more about once he gets Roar, you bring as many heroes as needed to make that Roar a threat and then take the tower with it. This game, like last game, they played around the Brood, and this game, they're like not playing around the Beastmaster. So I feel like they know what their offlane hero is supposed to do in the draft, like they're drafting accordingly, but they're not actually enabling it in any meaningful way. So they're going to make a move on top lane. They killed the Brew, the ultless Brew. So I would say that this doesn't really do much. They did force a lot of heroes from Beast Coast here. So the only idea that I can see with this is that by forcing a fight on an area that the opponent's not strong, that their goal was to draw attention away from the Beast. So that's definitely an option, a reasonable move to make. As long as Beastmaster gets this tower, I would have been fine with a move to bottom lane or to top lane. And that looks exactly like what's going to happen here. So now I really like what EG's doing because they took bottom tower and they've left their Beastmaster control this area. He's playing pretty safe overall. I'm recognizing that he's potentially under threat. He gets ganked by a Brewmaster split. Manages to use Roar in order to use the move speed to disengage. Also using it on the Panda that would throw him up in the air. So really smart there. And they're going to immediately collapse on mid tower. So I actually like this move a lot from EG. They're utilizing the Searing Chains arrow combo to pressure Chris Luck out of lane. See how he's forced to go back to base. Just doesn't have the sustain to deal with the slight spam. And then Beastmaster's immediately going to rotate mid. So this should be a free tower for them. They're now going to bully this Chin out of their own jungle. Get a kill. This is really nice. This is the type of pressure that I expect EG's draft to exert. And they're now running even more. They're like, okay, we forced Chris Luck back to base. This is great. This is precisely how EG is supposed to operate. Utilize the pressure that Beastmaster creates. Once they react to Beastmaster or try to gank him, create it somewhere else. If Lifestealer has somebody in his face, kill them. This is exactly what we want. So EG proceeded to take top tower off of this, which was pretty nice. This tower only really matters if you intend to invade the Ancients, which Lifestealer is actually a pretty damn good carry at invading just because of the innate survivability of Rage. And so the fact that they were able to kill this tower and likely invade the farm of Naga, very good. They managed to not lose anything in the meantime. Nightfall was chilling and farming up his items. So this mid game for EG is like much cleaner than we saw previous game. They're looking like they're in a much better spot. And only like the 5 to 8 minute mark in this game looked a bit weird. So we can actually continue in the replay where we know EG has not thrown their game, and let's go ahead and check and see what exactly goes wrong moving forward. So the next few minutes were basically just a farm war, and both teams traded about evenly. We're looking at like a pretty Naga type situation, right? Number 1 net worth, next 3 are on the enemy team, and EG is going to look to invade the triangle of Beast Coast, and Beast Coast is going to dodge this fight. They're going to mirror it. So I'd say pretty good moves by both teams. EG recognizes that they're stronger because even though Naga is super farmed, not the best fighting hero, unless you're grouped up as 5. So they want to keep playing the map on Beast Coast, and EG is going to turn that into a Roshan. But now that Beast Coast is able to take the bottom tower before Roshan dies, they want to group up and force a fight. And EG, I think, recognizes that they're better if they get the initiation, but if Beast Coast is set up as 5, that they are stronger. So EG is going to get this Rosh, then they're going to immediately back off and disengage, which I like this decision. They pop Mirana ulti, they run away from the Beastmaster split, and what happened here? So Mirana ulti ended, and then Crit didn't use directional move properly and leaped down. Fly's then going to get caught by the Brewmaster split. And then Nyx catches 2, but they actually turn that into a kill. Arteezy does not have Aegis. It's actually on Abed. So this fight looks overall pretty clean, except for the missed leap by Crit. Not a big deal. They are fighting into the power spike of Chris Luck. And it is important to note that since Lifestealer itemized to deal with Naga Siren, that nobody actually deals with the Lesh. So they definitely have single target DPS issues. So they're chasing after a Bloodstone Lesh. He doesn't have Bloodstone active, and maybe that's why they felt pretty good. But overall, they took like a ton of damage. And one big reason why Matu, when he plays Lifestealer, goes for the Shard is because in situations like this, you use a Shard on one big creep, it festers to the other creeps, and you heal full to 0 from a camp. So I think what's super important about this fight is that because Brewmaster splits on cooldown, and because the onus is kind of on EG to do something here, it's basically I look at this timer and I ask myself, how long does it take for EG to reset their resources and just go again? Get the lanes out, reset resources, and go again. So I don't know if I really like Arteezy's idea of Lifestealer, because what I'm seeing here is that he dropped to pretty low HP. He's still low going into the next fight, which is a big issue for Lifestealer in the current patch, and that's why the Shard is so good. He is going to heal back up, but he didn't really hit a creep for about a minute there, and he's finally going to be full HP after about a minute. So it's like, okay, I would have loved to just see EG, like, just run at them again. Naga gets a free tower off of it. Arteezy's going Halberd. So the issue I have with EG's lineup is that they just have no way to deal with this Lesh. So I would have argued that this Maelstrom and Armlet choice is weak. So the way you deal with Lesh is either Desolator Basher or Nullifier, because Nullifier just shuts down everything Lesh wants to do. His survivability tools are like Yules, Ags, all that kind of stuff. Force Stabs. etc. So I feel like they've got too many ways to deal with Naga, but no hero to deal with Lesh. And the response from Arteezy is to go Halberd. So that's just, to be honest, weird champ. I think he wants the Halberd for the status resistance on top of everything else for the Nyx. They are going to manage to kill the Lesh, which I think that was a bit of an overextension from Chris Luck. But they're chasing for more. Just remember, in the meanwhile, Chen's farming, Naga's farming. EG's definitely got to get crap done here. They're diving bottom tower. I think you just force this. Make this tower die. Why? Force the glyph at the very least. Why? What's going on here? Why is Beastmaster not hitting this? This move is great and all to pressure this tower, but you have to remember that Chen is also pressuring this tower, so you're kind of on a clock. They don't have fort, and Beast Coast does. So they're like moving 5 heroes here. Please make them fort this tower, right? Have Lifestealer walk over here. Have Beastmaster hit this. If this wasn't your intent, then like, why are you here? Like, that's what I'm thinking. If you weren't intending to pressure this tower, then why are you sitting here as 5, basically? It's not that I think they have to pressure this tower, but if you are here as 5, that's the only reason you would be here. So Beast Coast is actually mirroring this pressure while farming with more heroes. They're more split on the map. They have 1 person bottom, 1 person triangle, 2 people up here, while EG's sitting as 5. And EG's just like seemingly content with this trade of pressure / farm where Beast Coast is just getting more. So EG manages to take mid tower by forcing the fortification on bottom. They are going to finally react to top. Get the Chen to TP out, but that was actually a really nice TP. So at this point, we are forced to separate and deal with the Naga split push. We need our BKB on Ember, especially against the Nyx. We need the ability to regroup here so that Beast Coast cannot punish the fact that we TP'd somebody top. So Leshrac going for a Lotus Orb. Very good against the chains and the physical damage coming out from Beastmaster and the Lifestealer. Arteezy's actually elected to just go casual Sanj into Mjolnir. The issue with this Mjolnir is he still can't outpush the Naga because of the kill threat. So if you think about like Naga illusions hitting him, if he drops to like half HP and then gets Nyx assassined, he's just gonna die. So even though he has this Mjolnir, they're still getting outpushed. I really think the way they deal with this is to have the ability to easily kill the Leshrac because there are no saves on the side of Beast Coast. They're now going to be forced to walk out of their base or like use Pot Multi to get out of their tier 2 tower. Beast Coast is already set up on this. They're doing this 800 gold before Abed BKB. So this is like, get out of our face, Beast Coast, but we really don't want to fight you because we don't have our timing yet. So I'd say that's like a pretty good disengage from EG, but they immediately got smoked on by Beast Coast, so it comes down to whether or not they read this. It's kind of obvious if you think about it, if you're trying to avoid fighting. Looks like they read it pretty well. Nightfall's going to run bottom. He's almost got a BKB. Arteezy TP'd next to him, though. Why did Arteezy TP here? I really don't like this TP from Arteezy because it gives Beast Coast complete free reign of the top half of the map. Like now, whoever's here on EG is just completely stranded. He's not pushing bottom in any relevant way. So I feel like Ember's going to cut this wave. Beastmaster's going to push this wave. And we have to wait to see what Beast Coast does. And even if they show here, somebody on EG, maybe even Arteezy could TP mid and push it. But now he's like jungling Ancients. This is like surrendering all map control to Beast Coast. There's like no pressure coming out from EG. This is now going to give Beast Coast control of the top half of the map. While I do believe that Beast Coast is stronger, so they should be able to control this area, I feel like this should be Arteezy here, because supports can't deal with this Naga. You're the only one that can deal, him and Ember. So now Ember is going to run top, almost has his BKB. Arteezy's also going BKB. I mean, Naga's just so farmed. Top lane's like pushed in for all of eternity because of these illusions. I actually feel like I'd rather have the Lifestealer top than the Ember, because he has Mjolnir to deal with these Naga illusions. Like, he built items to deal with these Naga illusions. Let the Ember push bottom or mid with the supports behind him instead of being, like, up here getting hit by Naga illusions. Like, look at this, the nature of this top lane, right? So now EG is forced to respond, but Ember's, like, really low. Or, like, forced to Remnant out and lost mana. Not really low. He's actually kind of fine. Gonna place a ward to try to take a fight. They're going to kill the ward of their own. We're going to zoom out. They get the roar onto Chen. I don't know if that's really the target they want. I really hate the fact that Arteezy still has no shard. You could honestly just open wounds a Naga illusion and it'll go to the real one eventually. He has like no way to sustain long fights here, and it's going to be long fights because you're against like Chen heals and Naga Siren, who always takes long fights to sustain from Leshrac. So now this game all becomes about the Roche. I don't actually hate anything that EG is doing here. I just didn't like their map distribution. Notice how scared he has to be up this far. I would have really loved to see Arteezy just push this lane out to here and have the rest of EG attempt to control this area if possible. But instead, so now they have Abed farming Ancients. Why isn't he pushing bottom? Now, I feel like whoever on EG is top is under duress while nobody's dealing with bottom. I feel like this is such a big deal that one person on EG pushes bottom while one person relieves pressure top. Like, whoever's here needs to run bottom immediately. Roche is starting to respawn. It's towards the end of it, so I guess that's what they're concerned about. But they have Beastmaster Hawk. They have Mirana Arrow. They don't have a ton of damage to do Roche on Beast Coast. Like, yes, they can kill Roche, but it's not going to be really fast. So whoever's down here could easily be pushing this lane. I would prefer Beast if possible, simply because he can take the tower very easily. So generally, if it's hard for you to fight directly 5v5 as Dire, when it comes to Roche, you want to be pressuring this tower and forcing somebody on Beast Coast to respond in some way. And if you're not doing that, I feel like you're actually just losing the map, is what it feels like. Beast Coast can just pick whatever fight they want, basically. They're going to use Brewmaster Split and shove EG out of here. This should just be a free Roche. The only thing I can think of for EG to control this Roche, like I said, is to put Beast Coast on a timer and make it so they're losing this in the meantime. Because like I said, they can't really fight them directly. Beast Coast doesn't take this insanely fast. Like, they do it, right? But it's not like insanely fast. Where is the pressure on bottom lane? This is literally how Beastmaster plays. I'll be honest with you guys. Like, something's wrong with EG. Something's clanely wrong. It does not take a 12k MMR player to know that when you have like Beastmaster, Lycan, these Helm of the Overlord offlaners, that it's difficult oftentimes to fight 5v5. Like, just straight up 5v5 team fights. Especially when the opponent has an offlaner like Brew, okay? And a carry like Naga, who's actually pretty damn good at just making team fights like go your way with song and disengaging and all that kind of stuff, and providing vision with her illusions. You have to pressure this lane. I feel like EG could have eternally scouted this Roche, just seeing when it spawned and when Beast Coast was running in. And all they needed was one hero, preferably Beast by a large margin. Ember would have been like a distant second to be pushing this. And what's going to happen is, even if Beast Coast gets the Roche, they're going to lose a tower, likely take a lot of damage on the tier 3, and then they're going to spend a lot of the Aegis relieving pressure down here. Like, they're going to like push this out for one wave, and then Beastmaster's sitting right here, and then he's going to push it back in, and then they're going to try to group up, and then he's going to push it back in. And the only way they're ever going to be able to get rid of this pressure is by smoke ganking the Beast. So that then kind of puts the ball in EG's court to control the map and dictate where fights are occurring and how they want to take them. But instead, we're seeing the same thing as EG last game, where, remember when Beast Coast missed all their teamfight ultimates, that EG's response was with Brood, Terrorblade, Ember to try to fight them. It's like you're trying to run straight into a Chen, Naga, Brew, Lesh. Like, you're trying to run into these heroes. Like, these heroes are grouped in a ball with auras from Chen, teamfight from the Brew, vision from the Naga, damage and sustain and survivability from the Lesh. Like, it is so hard to engage straight into these heroes. Nightfall is forced to use his BKB and run away. And really, the only lesson I can give you guys is that EG needed to pressure this lane so long ago, and they're finally now realizing it here. And Beast Coast at this point has already pushed a tower. Like, they're already breaking your high ground. They're not on a timer in the slightest. They're still representing this, like, I dare you to fight into us as 5. They've even got the Leshrac shard from the Aegis, or from Roche, so, like, it's even harder to fight into them. How are you going to fight into this if you're looking from EG's perspective? And somehow, I'm telling you guys, Nightfall's 2k MMR higher than me. How are they not pushing this lane? How are they sitting here with Beastmaster? They have almost no wave clear other than Ember, and he has to walk up to Slight, and we're dealing with like Nyx Assassin and stuff. They have virtually no wave clear on EG. No defensive moves on their own towers. They don't really have good poke damage. They don't have like relevant poke damage in the sense that like Lesh can sustain with Bloodstone. They have Chen. No relevant amount of poke damage. Naga has a heart. So this is just going to be a slow but sure death for EG as long as... Look, they're literally drawing the line for Hector to push out this lane and go here. Beast Coast knows they wanted this lane to be pushed out, and instead of going all the way to their tier 3 and, like, saving a tower, they're now just here as 4. EG's all locked in their base. What happens is it would have taken Beast Coast an extra 30 seconds to push from here instead of here, which then allows EG, when Beast Coast does this, to push this lane out, to push this lane out, an extra wave, and maybe make a move, and basically mirror the map, forcing Beast Coast to respond again. But now, like, this process is accelerated by 30 seconds because of this. They're actually taking a fight in advantageous numbers from EG. But the thing is if you look at the lanes, lane pushed in, lane pushed in, lane pushed in. So what I'm seeing in EG's play in both of these games is so unlike EG. I have said that at the start of this video that all EG does is push lanes efficiently, outfarm the opponent, and a lot of that has to do with choosing the right lanes, really dictating the movements of the opponent team, and making their moves predictable because EG is faster. So even when EG gets kills in these games, like they did the wrong thing in the first game to try to pressure this tower because it wasn't relevant lane pressure. Whenever the opponent messes up, instead of taking fights, instead of pressuring lanes, they try to take a fight. In this game, instead of pressuring this lane, forcing Beast Coast to go there, and then pushing these other 2 lanes, they actually like moved out to try to take kills. And the thing about this is, you may be like, but BSJ, they got 2 kills. Like, they killed 2 supports. But this is what the game is all about. There's all about these lanes. Because if you get these 2 kills, and then you just walk back and push lanes, why didn't you just push lanes? It's like if you were faster about pushing lanes, you were pressuring the correct lanes, then suddenly these lanes are pushed out. Like, this lane would be all the way up here, this lane would be all the way up here. Then you get these 2 kills, and suddenly Beast Coast is forced to leave this position on the map because they're losing top tier 2, their mid tier 3 is taking damage. But Beast Coast is like, okay, let's just wait for our supports to respawn. Naga's actually the one hitting a tower, and EG's like, let's go clear some waves, and we're right back where we started with 2 minutes left on the Aegis. Beast Coast doesn't have to even deal with the other lane. They're immediately back together, which is exactly what you're supposed to prevent by pushing the other lanes. They're now trying to go on a Naga Siren who got force-stabbed. They managed to even use their spells on him. Lotus Orb protecting him a bit, but these force stabs from Beast Coast, the disengage against heroes like Lifestealer and Beastmaster, where they want to roar you and burst you, is so important. They managed to actually kill the Nyx. They're going to deter this push on the side of EG. This is looking pretty good. The long fights are definitely going to favor Beast Coast, though, because of the sustain from the Lesh, sustain from the Chin, and the damage over time from the Naga, Illusions, and Riptide. But okay, so, like, they held. No buybacks expended. So this is, like, one of those scenarios where, like, say these lanes were more pressured, right? Then maybe you could do something with this. But we're kind of, like, back to square one, playing for Roche again. Spawns in 3 minutes to 6 minutes. EG's going to attempt to move out of their base. Here we go again. So the lanes are actually in a good spot. This is, like, the first time in a while, because they killed Beast Coast, that they have this opportunity. And all the net worth lead from Beast Coast is between the 2 carries. So if they can fight without the Naga, or they can burst the Naga, then these fights are on even terms, right? So EG smokes up, they run into a Nyx, who's going to effectively scout out for Chris Luck, but he has the Lotus Orb. And they're going to burst him. Good. And they're actually going to find the Naga. Really nice move from EG. This is definitely how they snowball their momentum. They're taking over control of the Roshan area, and I think this is their best opportunity. They're gonna sing on Naga. Rage already down on Lifestealer. He does have BKB. The thing about this game is you're dealing with Diffusal from Naga, and you're dealing with Mana Burn from Nyx. Arteezy 100% has to buy a Linken's here. I know it sounds so cheesy, but it blocks the Mana Burn active from Nyx, and it gives you the mana regen necessary to stay on the map. All I need from Lifestealer is to have mana. That is all I need him to do. Because if he has mana plus Shard, then he can spam spells, play off the low cooldown of Rage, and basically stay on the map in some meaningful way. But he's got a mana-intensive item. Even BKB costs mana now. Mjolnir costs mana. I'm anticipating that Arteezy is going to die with no mana. So they managed to burst down the Nyx. Fantastic. Really making good moves around the Roshan pit. And they're actually going to try to force this with no Nyx. Really impossible to push into Lesh. I don't think this is ever going to work. So they're going to back off. Abed has a Remnant to rejoin this fight. Arteezy's looking to go. But this is why you're supposed to just have the Shard. At least force the Manta much earlier. Used Rage already. Has BKB, Force Staff, infesting a Crystal Maiden. So they made this move without Abed around. Looked kind of forced. Arteezy's now forced to use his BKB. Honestly, any of these heroes could get open wounds and he'd be full HP on Lifestealer and it'd be a really big difference. He's now forced to TP out. He kind of like isolated his team there. Abed never even had an opportunity to go in with BKB. I mean, we kind of like rewind this fight and exactly see like what happened here. So like Arteezy's committing onto K1. Kind of forced into an awkward choke point for the rest of EG. It's like they want to help. Abed's like poking and prodding, but the Wraith Pact kind of has to die. I would love to see Crit trying to kill this Wraith Pact, but he dies like pretty freely. I'll be honest and say I have no idea why he has a Spirit Vessel. I know that Lesh is great to kill with Spirit Vessel, but he always buys some item that dispels it. He's not your issue. It's the Naga, right? So if they had some way to clear these illusions with like an Ags, or they had some way to purge the net with either Yules or Lotus earlier on in this game, I would have liked that a lot more. I feel like the Lesh was never actually an issue. Every time they killed him, he kind of just, or they went to kill him, he kind of just died. Like their draft kind of naturally deals with the Lesh, while it doesn't very naturally deal with the Naga Siren. So I think a lot of their items moving forward should have been dealing with the Naga. So Arteezy goes Basher. I actually don't think this is how you itemize against Naga. You're not having issues with the other heroes. They're kind of just dying too. I really don't like this Basher. I think his issue is having to be forced to use Rage very early on and then getting stunned out of it or getting controlled out of it. I really do think if he's allowed to hit that he does not need this Basher and he just needs to stand in front as long as possible, enabling his teammates to position better. Like I want him to not be afraid of these illusions. You know what I mean? I want him to hit these illusions without his teammates around. And I want him to not be having no mana. This is going to be his #1 issue. It doesn't matter if you're bashing illusions. You need to clear them conveniently. So the Basher definitely pays off there, but I don't even know if they needed it, to be honest. Traded 1 for 1. Still down by 8k. They're just getting out-farmed. My issue with this game is that it's EG's problem in taking these fights is not that they can't take the fights, it's that they can't play the map. That's my issue with EG. Like, when Arteezy's forced to run away from illusions over here, like, when we're talking about Roach control, which both teams are going for, like, now Beast Coast controls this entire area. If Arteezy sits here hitting the illusions with Mjolnir active on, then EG controls this area. And then Beast Coast never gets this hill in the first place. But now we're seeing exactly a very predictable circumstance where Arteezy's been running out of mana, fighting consistently into these illusions. He's forced to use Rage because he was going to be out of mana. He was literally going to be out of mana to Naga illusions, so he was forced to use Rage. So it's like nice in theory that you have this Basher to kill them, but it really doesn't matter if you keep getting forced back into your base. Like, this was what K1 went for. He was trying to use his illusions not to necessarily kill the Lifestealer, but to force him to stop fighting, right? And so this is exactly how I wanted EG to play game 1 and 2 in the early to mid game. This is proof that if you can just control areas, not necessarily kill them, that is what it takes to get crucial objectives, out-farm the opponent, and control the map. So, at the end of the day, I feel like Beast Coast just has a better understanding of this meta. You know, or not even better understanding of this meta. I feel like EG was just not doing a lot of fundamental things that you would expect from tier 1 teams. They're not thinking about how to control areas. They're not thinking about what lanes to pressure, where to pressure, how to capitalize on opponent utilizing spells or getting kills, and they just looked really fragmented as a squad. I see a bunch of different pages in this game, in the 2 games that I've watched. While there were glimpses of greatness where they like took this bottom fight and then took a good fight here, it feels like consistently they're fighting uphill, and that's just because Beast Coast was playing better Dota than they were. And then it comes down to, do we think Beast Coast individually is just better players, or are they operating better as a team? And while I'm not trying to take anything away from Beast Coast players, I do think EG has 5 of the individually best players in the world. So at that point, you kind of have to assume that it's purely team cohesion and some sort of lack of trust or belief in themselves that has been accrued over the course of the season. So it seemed like in Crit's interview, he was kind of feeling that too. Some sort of something like that, but I'm not going to begin to act like I know exactly what it is. But that's it from me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed my analysis of EG. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.